If you could start out by introducing yourself by name.
Okay, I'm Ernest Withers.
What Ernest Withers did was unprecedented.
Photographers like Ernest Withers were telling the truth. And before Photoshop, cameras didn't lie.
People were murdered because they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that wrong place meant civil rights movement.
He was the chronicler of our community.
Ernest Withers represented a treasure in the Black community. We knew somebody was keeping a record.
Memphis loved my father, but that changed the day that it was announced that my father was an FBI alleged informant.
The famed civil rights photographer who appears to have also done double duty for the FBI.
There was kind of this feeding frenzy of intelligence. They wanted a picture they could put in a file.
You mean to tell me this is what he was doing?
It never dawned upon any of us. We just felt he was taking pictures.
This is so crazy.
Daddy said sometimes you find yourself in a position having to do things to take care of your family.
The volume of his work speaks louder than anything.
He shouldn't have sold his soul to a white man for $1.
Just in from Chicago.
Oh, yeah? Where are you now, though?
I'm in New York.
Oh, okay. So you just flew in?
Yep. Just flew back.
Where were you?
I was in Chicago.
I know where. If I can ask, unless it's like just with family or something.
No, it was for this 1619 project that I'm working on, which is, a series based on the Pulitzer Prize winning journalism of Nicole Hannah-Jones.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Is that distributed already? That project?
Yeah, I mean it's one of those. A lot of cooks in the kitchen on that one. New York Times, Oprah, Lionsgate, Disney, Hulu.
Don't know any of those companies or people, but
I mean,
sounds all right.
You're recording this audio-wise. Are you recording it visually as well?
Yeah, but
what constitutes?
We don't have to. What I do is I also put on the YouTube channel because I started zooming everything. Anyway, it's up to you.
I'm okay with it. I think I want to improve the lighting on my side.
I know what you mean. Well, no, mine isn't really that good. Thank you. There we go. Now here we go. I'll play with my lighting too.
Let me give me a minute.
Take a minute. I'll pause the recording.
Hang on. I do have a light.
What?
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't record that. That would
right. I got to be careful, right?
Hang on. Let's see. My light's not working.
Oh. Yeah, I'm just kind of getting the hang of using this light.
The heck? Oh, there it is. Oof.
Yeah, and it goes blue first.
Yeah, we got to change that.
There you go. Soft light.
So bright. Is it soft?
Really? Well, I could do blue too if you'd prefer. Then we can both kind of have bad.
Match our temperature.
Yeah.
I have this problem where when there's too much light on me, people actually don't know that I'm black.
Wait a minute, you're black?
Problems. Yeah.
Oh, that's the first I've heard of it.
First you heard I was black. I mean, some would call me biracial. I choose black.
Uh-huh. Well, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting having those conversations, back during the Obama years. Because every so often you get, even my own mother, who is extremely progressive, she would say, well, he's, she was so, it wasn't bias. I mean, it wasn't prejudice. It was just purely being very technical about it. Like, he had a white parent, so he's not just a black president, but I'm like, I think you're missing the point in this case, you know.
Yeah.
But and also my son as a footnote, not my son is a footnote, but he is the same in the same situation, I guess. Yeah.
He has a black mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in a situation. It's a situation.
It's a situation.
It's a situation for generations.
Yeah, it's it's interesting being the parent of that because you know, you have to go by what the child thinks of their identity. And you know, they're you know, you got to give them the lead in this thing, you know, and it's interesting to have seen he's still kind of on a journey with that and how he thinks of himself. You know, he's a completely open-minded and open-hearted person. So, but it's interesting. I haven't had a talk about this. It's because, you know, I'm sure she's had more talks about it. It's like, I guess he seems so okay with himself in that way that, you know, I just forget. I don't think about it.
How old is he?
He's 18.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the times, honestly, Phil, when I think about it, the most is that when he visits me, I'm upstate now, although, you know, for 17 of his years, I lived down in the city and, you know, he's still in Brooklyn. And you know, we made a conscious decision to raise him in the city, you know, and not to take him somewhere else where he would be in such a overwhelming minority.
Yeah.
Paging Dr. Freud. Anyway.
No, listen, I could talk up a blue streak about this. In fact, I have a film about this very subject.
What's that?
It's an adjacent story. You know, I not only am I a biracial product of a interracial union, but I was adopted into a multiracial family by white parents. So my story is not that unusual, but it does speak to a multiracial generation, if you will. And so, sidebar, Adam, let's talk. Totally. I'll share you the link. This was the first film I ever made. It's a little embarrassing. It's so elemental in some ways, but it is that story and how parents like you make choices to raise children like your son have a bearing on you know, on their identity. And but you're right to allow him to kind of seek his own path. The fact that he's in Brooklyn with his mom speaks volumes about that path, I'm sure. But yeah, I could wear you out with this conversation. So,
I dare you. I take that challenge. I don't think so. This is kind of, you know, a big part of you know, my own path I've chosen.
Sure.
You know, I'm not with her, but you know, I'm with her. You know what I mean? Like we're still doing it. We're, you know, it's raising a person. It's a lifelong commitment. So we're in it. Yeah.
No question.
Now I'm with a Danish woman, so it's even more complicated.
All right. Where are you upstate exactly? You in Woodstock or?
No, I'm not. I'm across the river, so I'm in actually like Columbia County, but just literally you could walk to the border. Like I'm like just over the border of Dutchess County, so I'm like halfway between, more or less, I guess, between Rhinebeck and Hudson. And I work at a radio station right in the middle called, which is in Red Hook.
Oh yeah.
You know, the one that's
not
near Bard College. You know where I am. Tivoli, Red Hook, that area.
Tivoli, sure. I know it well. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was, yeah. So I've been here for like 2+ years.
I love it up there.
Yeah, me too.
Oddly enough, my connection to that region has to do with my search and reunion of my birth parents. My birth mother, who I didn't know for the first near 27+ years of my life. I guess I met her when I was around 30. Raised a second family there, raised her family there in Woodstock. So I have two brothers there. She now lives in New Paltz. So yeah, I came to know the area as I came to know her.
Wow. right in Woodstock. So did she come up for the festival, or
She was there, yeah.
she was? Wow.
She was there, as was my brother. So,
Is this like a half brother, or I mean,
yeah,
I use
yeah,
these
yeah.
terms, but you know,
No, it's true. It's only half. Yeah, I have brothers from another father, which is them. 2
Mhm.
brothers from another mother, which is 2 as well. 3 actually.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
You're right. This is a whole other podcast. We could do a podcast together on this subject, and
hey, I'm happy to
you know,
actually. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I mean, it is a it's I don't know. I mean, I wonder if anybody who isn't living I mean, it's part of my world. It's definitely part of your world. I mean, it's entirely. And I'm wondering people that are not experiencing this thing, what their thoughts are about it, like people that's what I'm more interested in. I would be interested in talking to people who absolutely have who come from a much more homogenous sort of experience, and finding out what they think, what's on their mind about it.
yeah, that's actually a curious question.
Yeah. But so it was really so tell me, so so what's Jake Perlin, who you brought up, who was my that summer, it was the summer of 1990, and it was in Vermont at this summer camp. It was a very progressive, roots, the summer camp. That's another story as well. But I was sort of a quasi counselor that year. It was like they brought some people that were floaters, like people that and I had been a counselor for years earlier, and then I sort of took some time off, and then I came back, and then I became like somebody who was like filled in, like almost like a seat warmer type. Like if somebody took a day off, or if they needed a third person, I'd come into the senior bunk. And Jake was in that senior bunk that year, and he was a skinny kid with a big swoop of jet black hair, very 80s, wore big baggy t-shirts, and very colorful. And so when I ran into him, 35 years later, whatever it was, the hair had moved. It's like, from one spot to another. It took me a minute, but it finally showed me a photo, and I was like, oh my God, of course I remember this kid.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, interestingly enough, I came to meet Jake because of the picture taker. You may have recognized the name at the end. The dedication was to a man named St. Clair Bourne.
Oh, yes, I do.
St. Clair was something of a mentor to me. And when he died during the early phases I think he had shot with Ernest about 4 days. Or any of the revelations about him being an FBI informant, they were making a film about him as a civil rights photographer, kind of a zealot of his time, which is in and of itself an interesting film. But he dies. He dies within months of Ernest. 2 months to the day, in fact.
Of the 4-day interview?
Yeah. So he does the last interview known of Ernest alive. And he also documents the funeral. And this is material that you see in the film. And so, long story short is, I come to inherit this film from Saint by way of Sam Pollard, who was very close friend with Saint.
Regular on the show.
And, but I have to go through Saint's sister, a lawyer based in the U.S. Virgin Islands named Judith Bourne. And Judith, I'm meeting for the first time, and she's a lawyer, and she's irascible, just in the same way her brother was, but from a legal perspective. And she's got to give me her seal of approval, which ultimately she did. I inherit this film, and then years later, we're still trying to raise money for this hagiography unsuccessfully. I get, the revelations come out, and I realize, oh, now I have a film, and now maybe we can make it. That was 10 years ago. All that to say, we circle back to Judith, Saint's sister, to get the necessary rights to the material that Saint had shot. Now we know how much we're using, we know the placement of it and its value. And she's like, I'd say yes on the face of it, but I have someone handling Saint's archive, and his name's Jacob Perlin.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So she's like, you got to talk to him. So that's where the conversation began. In fact, to be honest, if I'm being honest, I don't know that Judith really felt like she liked the film. Like and it was Jake who I think told her that we were on the right track. And I mean,
when you say like the film, you mean like the project.
Well,
you mean like the project, right? You mean like the intention of the project, not she hadn't seen a film yet because you hadn't made it yet, right?
So by the time we circled back to her, we had, a fine cut. Near picture lock. Yeah, we waited. I mean, we were in dialogue over the years, and she was surprised at one point. In fact, when I first met Jake, he had mounted a retrospective of Saint's work.
I was going to bring that up. That's where I think I was introduced to him, because the Metrograph, right? Didn't they did this retrospective? Yeah,
that's
right.
Right. And that's where I first met him. And I saw Judith after many years of not having seen her or talked to her about this project. And she's like, oh, you're still making that? She was surprised to think that I was still carrying this yoke.
Right.
And I said, oh, absolutely. I was like, I owe it to your brother. And so, so she'd built this, established this relationship with Jake and come full circle. And Jake loves the film. And Jake's like, I want to do whatever I can to, make sure this film sees the light of day. And, he's been a consulting producer ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something. Who else was it from the
You said Lois Vossen? Is that who?
Well, she's done this podcast too, because, I devoted a lot of the show to documentary, and so she's come on a couple of times and talked about independent lens, which you're going to be on eventually.
Yes,
yeah,
we should winter. We're supposed to say winter 2023.
Okay. Oh, so early next year, though.
Early next year.
Okay. So yeah, but more importantly, the theatrical at BAM is coming right up, right? Is that next Friday?
A week from today. Yeah.
A week from today. So that's the 14th. Okay. Of October. All right. So there. And we did a Q&A. That's how we met at the Woodstock Film Festival.
Correct.
But where did the film have its premiere?
That was its world premiere.
That was the world premiere.
That's right.
Okay. Because I didn't do the intro, I don't think.
No. I mean, that was.
I would have mentioned it.
That was the second screening at the festival.
Right.
So the first one was the day before. It was a kind of breakfast premiere. But well received, and I thought the right audience in many ways. People who had lived through the time, who were progressive and likely active politically at the time.
Right.
Story takes place, and so they were very engaged with its content.
Right. Well, I mean, it did. There was a little bit of a stirring, a little provocation going on in the audience that we had. I mean, there was this older woman who just couldn't quite understand what the big deal was about Ernest and the fact that he was a paid informant by the FBI to spy on, the civil rights movement leaders, among others, and she just didn't see the issue. She didn't really see it, which was surprising. I was actually talking to her. She was a very, sorry about that.
That's all right.
My aunt is calling. Yeah, so very unusual. I'm not sure where she got confused, but anyway.
Yeah, that was an interesting encounter. I mean, but the thing about the film, which is, I think, both its strength and some would consider a weakness, is that we don't come out on one side or the other. We there's a degree of nuance and ambivalence. Was Ernest a hero or a villain? We leave it up to you. And I think is one who probably wished we maybe came out on one side or the other.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like it's not one or the other, it's both. I mean, that's my takeaway. It's not like he's a hero or a villain. He is a guy who did it. You're right. The body of work did achieve a lot of good. It made a big difference in a lot of people. It has a lasting, it's a document of information that we can take away and learn from and value for, forever. So in that way, he did good, or whether intentionally or not. I mean, that's the outcome. So what his real intentions were, we don't really know. It's not like he did. It's not like he agreed to become a paid informant so he could get, manipulate the FBI. Although, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know, probably not, but maybe, who knows? It's doubtful.
Listen, I would imagine. I mean, again, Ernest only knows, and he took it to his grave.
Right.
I suspect his wife knew because they were, a team. From a financial and business perspective, he was, a freelance photographer during, the Jim Crow era, and managed to raise a family of 9, put them all through college. I mean, so,
Wow.
he did that in partnership with his wife, taking pictures. I mean, just imagine that even today, the achievement of that. So all that to say, his decision to inform and to be paid for it, I think he just saw the FBI as a client.
Say that again?
I think he saw the FBI as just another client.
Wow.
And I do think, to your point, he was getting information from them about the kinds of things that they were concerned with and about, and sharing that information with some of the people on the ground. At the same time, sharing information about what the activities of these activists were with the FBI. So, I mean, you want to call him a double agent? I mean, that may be an apt reference, but I don't know. I don't know what his motives were. I do think he had a family to feed and a practice that allowed him to do that. I also know, I mean, just his history tells you that he comes from a long line of patriots. He himself was a veteran. His father was a veteran. Before that, his veteran war soldier family life dates back to the Civil War. He had a great grandfather who fought on the side of the Union against the Confederacy, only to be hung when he returned to Tennessee. Tennessee's a volunteer state, right? So, it's a long history of people committed to this better union of ours, and I think at the time, the anti-communism strain of influence that was running through our civic life definitely caught Ernest's attention.
It's such a complicated because you will not get the answers. So you have to be okay. You have to kind of be okay with that, with the fuzzy lines and the.
Absolutely.
But that's what makes us human.
Yeah, we like to say that, Ernest's life was anything but black and white, but the photos he preferred to take were.
So it's going to be at BAM on the 14th. Now, Jake does have a history also at BAM, so maybe he was able to help.
Yeah, no question.
He used to program there, right? And
yeah. No, Jake was very influential in that.
Yeah. And then Daniel Wolf is one of your cast members, shall we say, because people don't like the term talking heads. I use it as just a shorthand, but I understand, but anyway, he's in the film, and I know him from, he has produced a couple of at least one documentary with, the late,
Jonathan Demme, I think.
Thank you, Jonathan Demme. I was just having a senior moment. Yeah, with Jonathan Demme. And I was working at POV at the time. I'm pretty sure I was working for a little while doing some freelance with POV. So I got to email with Jonathan Demme. I was trying to get him also to do this podcast, because yes, I've been doing it for that long, but I got Daniel Wolf, which was a nice alternative at the time, because he's turned out to be a pretty great guest.
Great guy. Interestingly enough, Jonathan Demme is a signature influence on me. He and Spike Lee both, who decided they were going to just tell stories, whether it was scripted or unscripted.
Right.
It was fine to be drawn between documentary and film.
It's a good, that's a really good, I never thought of that, of how closely their visions were, but you're right. They both made these, narrative films, and then also had this great, and, I mean, Herzog is another, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just like that one-off, like maybe, like some documentary filmmakers will make a one-off, like Michael Moore or somebody, but like has a body of document that could serve, that could just sort of be on its own as representing the filmmaker. And Demme had many documentaries, and most people don't know them. And Spike, of course, has a huge collection of documentaries that he's made.
Should have won an Oscar for one of them at least. But all that to say, interestingly enough, as I come to understand it, Daniel was affiliated with this film early on because he knew Ernest because of the book that he published and wrote, Memphis Blues Again, Ernest Withers photographs. But in his association with Demme, Demme was interested in making this film.
Is that
so
right?
Apparently he was a candidate to make this film at some point before Saint. Before so there's the legacy. That's
Well, I see it. I've seen from a couple of his other films. I can see how he'd be attracted to this story,
I often wonder what film Jonathan Demme would have made, what film Saint Born would have made, knowing the film that I made. I'm just privileged.
Well, you have some great people in this film. I mean, many of the survivors of the civil rights era. That had to be a very gratifying experience for you.
Very gratifying. Some no longer with us, some no longer able to tell their story, and there they are on screen.
Andrew Young, is he around?
He is around. He was recently hospitalized, but he's back out of the hospital. He's wheelchair bound, as I understand.
Oh dear. Okay.
But Jesse Jackson, also in the film, but who is now, afflicted with Parkinson's disease. So no longer able to really tell his tale. That's Harlem, by the way, outside my window.
Oh, wow. I was wondering. Okay. It's the soundtrack, right?
That's
Where
right.
Are you? Are you near Firelight?
I'm not far. In fact, 116 and Frederick Douglass Boulevard.
Okay. Yeah.
So you got a lot of editing ahead of you, Adam, I'm afraid.
It's okay. No, the show is really just, I just did a thing with Andy Timoner as well. And that was just I mean, the important thing is the conversation, and, I'm not so worried about, I mean, you want people to be able to focus on it, and, but I'm not so hung up on perfection, and like, it's not the point,
Right.
And people actually like it. Because they get a little bit of real life leaking in. Well, this is real life too, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. The dogs barking, the sirens going off, and everything. It's all good.
What do they say about perfection? It's the enemy of good, or something.
Oh, I don't know that quote, but that definitely makes sense.
Great line. So, what was I saying?
Well, what were we saying? I think you finished your thought. Well, we were talking about Jesse and all these surviving. Yeah, of course. I mean, these people are well into their 80s at this stage. At the that have survived. I mean, but it's really amazing the access you got. And
well, interestingly enough, so as I said, I inherited this film before the revelations about Ernest,
right,
as an informant. And as soon as those revelations came into public view, I thought, now I have a movie. And some of the first contact I made was to the stalwarts of the movement. Joseph Lowry, who's no longer with us, Jesse Jackson, Andrew Young, Kathleen Cleaver. And I managed to...
Eldridge Cleaver's widow, I guess?
Eldridge's, yes, widow.
Okay.
And again, St. Clair born and she were an item when I met them. They were an it couple here in New York City. Yeah. Long after Eldridge had so I came to know her, and her daughter was a friend of mine. We're of the same generation and age, and so it was one of those kinds of connections. So she was very interested in this history, and Ernest, obviously, it was someone who, in her mind, had betrayed the movement. And so I thought she'd be a good person to talk to. She changed her tune, oddly enough.
You think maybe her sister-in-law got to her?
Well, I expected her to be more, adamant about his role as an informant. She was a Black Panther, like snitches get stitches, in the Black Panther Party. And she kind of walked it back. And what I realized as a documentarian, I made the mistake of allowing her to sit in. There's a string of interviews. I think she sat in for either Andrew Young or Reverend Lowry, both of whom really kind of soft pedaled Ernest's role. They weren't interested in indicting him. Lowry says something to the effect that, Ernest really, took the FBI's money, and it was money they wasted, and so she heard all this, and I think, she kind of softened her tone in the interview, and I never got that fiery Kathleen indictment
that you were so hungry to get. Yeah, I mean, your filmmaker, side had to was disappointed, and meanwhile your producer side, still needed to get her in there, I guess.
Exactly.
But well, I mean, I personally like this story is really, in my wheelhouse because, I spent a lot of time, I think I mentioned to you as we were walking out of the theater, like grappling with the idea of informing, and, my area that I'm more knowledgeable about, or have a little bit more knowledge about, is the, certainly the Red Scare and the Hollywood blacklist years, and those who chose to name names like Elia Kazan and even Sterling Hayden, people like that, or and then this idea that everyone who went in front of the committee was a victim. Yes, I mean, you could argue that, but then some people chose not to name names and not to do that, and paid a much higher price. One could say.
Yes.
But I agree that everybody was like, it was a no-win for everybody. Comes down to this really incredible, I mean, it's an opportunity to have these really nuanced conversations, because that's why I think this documentary you've made is so important for people to see and to talk about, because, I don't know what I would have done back in the 50s during the McCarthy era. I don't know. I would like to think that I would have kept silent, but if I had a family and a living that I needed, to continue, and I have to be honest. Like, I don't know what I would, if I was Ernest, and I was approached, and, it was an opportunity. I have 9 children, I don't know. I mean, then you're like, you say, I can handle this, you rationalize, right? So we can't, to be so quick to judge is not really doing anybody any service.
I agree entirely. And there were times when I put myself in Ernest's shoes and realized that it's not a simple answer. It's not as simple as hero or villain, black or white. It's very gray.
But listen to the Lee Grant show when you get a minute sometime because it's a very special episode. I have to make it available, but it's like an old enough episode. I think I don't know that it's online, but I'll put it back online after this. So, but you should listen because I do talk about it with her. And I asked her, I said, what you didn't name names and you didn't act, couldn't get work for 10 years or whatever. She had to do, poor thing, she had to go to New York and do theater, but she was an ingenue, she lost all those ingenue years. But fortunately, the timing was good for Lee Grant because when she was came back, it just happened to be in the heyday of the new Hollywood, and they all loved her and they all started casting her and everything. So she,
right,
she was able to have this enormous, and then she had lied about her age as well, and but she's what an amazing person she is, and what an incredible experience to be able to sit across the table from her.
I look forward to hearing that episode.
Yeah, yeah, it's really. I mean, I hope I sound halfway, intelligent in it, but she's just such a warm-hearted person and so available, so present. I feel very fortunate, and I feel fortunate to have seen The Picture Taker, which is going to be a BAM as of October 14th for its theatrical in New York. Are you getting a theatrical in Los Angeles as well?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's theatrical world is a little topsy-turvy right now.
Oh, for sure.
Can well imagine.
Yeah, right.
To have gotten this release, but
oh my God, what a nice opportunity! You'll have wonderful, screenings and Q&As and are you going to have special guests at the Q&A? Are you lining all that up, or?
Yeah, well, we have a couple talkback sessions that are going to happen on the first two nights.
Okay.
We open at the Indie Memphis Film Festival also on October 19th. Wow. We'll have a number of the people in the film attending, and obviously Memphis will come out in full force. So that's the opening night.
Right, it's amazing. Yeah, thank God for film festivals.
Yeah,
I mean, they are an alternate distribution system network because there's so many of them now, and it really does and it gives you filmmakers who normally might not see their film on a screen with an audience like that opportunity. So it's a valuable thing,
I'm actually really happy to have that opportunity, after coming out of 2 years of COVID. In fact, though, that pandemic time was the time we were able to edit the film. I was finally, basically, forced to sit down and do something that I couldn't get finished otherwise. And so coming out of that, now we have a film that, festivals are back in person, and we're going to be in Montclair's Film Festival. We're going to be in
that's a great festival,
Philadelphia Film Festival. So
these are all coming out. These are all in the fall, or are they just going into the spring next year?
All in October.
They're all coming up in the next weeks. Because all these festivals, schedules shifted in the last couple of years. Like I can no longer. I used to know them all. I'm surprised you're not showing the New Orleans Film Festival's coming up, right too.
Yeah, I know we're not. Yeah,
what about Doc NYC? No.
Doc NYC did select us.
Okay.
However, the
BAM, yeah. I didn't catch up with myself.
Complicated things.
Makes sense. Now, it's good. It's a good thing. And you're before Doc NYC, so it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
it's a win-win.
We need a New York premiere. You're not going to give us one, so we'll have to move on.
Yeah, right. No, it's fantastic. I'm rooting for you, and I'm rooting for the film. But you're also on an indie lens in November, so it's just a good path for the film. And it's and the series is named after a piece of a camera, so that's a nice little
in fact our whole promotional piece
I love that graphic.
This is in the lens, and
I like that graphic a lot. I mean, it's a perfect graphic.
So but the Indie Lens premiere, broadcast premiere will not be until 2023. That'll be in January.
Okay. Oh, that's in 2023?
I'm not supposed to mention.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. I don't think I thought it was sooner, but I'm just confusing.
as I said. So
Right.
stay tuned for.
Well, we'll bring Lois on and she can clarify.
Do that.
Yeah, no, I'd love to bring her back on. She's such a delight. She's
great.
She's a lovely person.
Yeah.
She's so just, I don't know, very warm-hearted. You know, you don't see a lot of quite so many people that sort of, not, I mean, when people get into that position, often, they just become, I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. She's really
business-like.
Yeah, no,
I don't know what.
She's very accessible and smart.
Yeah.
About the material.
Very good. Well, I think we did a nice job here between the two of us.
Hey, I appreciate the conversation, and sounds like we have another podcast in the making. So.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, and we should do many of these. Lois has been on a few times. Sam Pollard has been on a bunch of every film he comes on. I invite.
Great, Sam's great.
Yeah, Jake has not been on, the bastard, but
Well, you got to get him on.
Well, he's just he's a very private guy, I guess. I don't know.
He's a dad now, right?
I did not.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. Let's. Okay. Well, congratulations, Jake Pearl. I'm sure he's watching. I love you. Nothing to worry about. You come on, bring the kids, bring the family, or come on to the interracial show that to the biracial show we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
That's fine too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it. It's great.
And we'll stay in. Same here. Thank you.
Stay tuned.
Exactly. Okay. Now, so is it? Not Laura.
Lisa, my producer.
Lisa. What?
The producer of the film?
No. Jake's the mother. Jake's partner.
Oh, I haven't met Jake's wife yet.
Oh, okay.
No.
I didn't know even they were married. So.
Actually.
What?
She's a filmmaker.
What a shock that comes as. Well, I was just trying to remember if she used to work at the Maisel Center. If it's her.
Yes.
Not
she
blanking.
Still has ties.
Yeah. No. I know her. Yeah. Well, he was living down by BAM when I was years ago. I don't know. He'd probably moved. That place was too small.
Yeah, they're up here in Harlem.
Okay.
And that was another thing that connected us.
Right.
We're neighbors.
Hopefully he'll see it and he'll reach out.
Yeah. Hopefully he won't, mind that we talked about him.
No.
Anyway, thanks so much, Adam.
My pleasure. Thanks. Have a great evening.
All right, you too. Let's go Mets.
And I will be in touch when I post this and everything.
All right.
Yeah, let's go Mets.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.